Hi, everybody. Brian Newbert here from goldenblack.com, live in Mackey Arena. Live this time, not live on tape delay like our rap videos are normally done. This is a bit of a trial. I wanted to see if I could do these live, these rap videos following Purdue basketball games live, trust myself to not say anything ridiculous. Because when you do it live on YouTube, the upload time is significantly faster than it would be had I done it before in iMovie and put it into Vimeo the way we're doing it before. You don't care about any of that stuff. I understand that completely, but I'm just telling you, I'm doing it live for this reason, to save myself potentially another 15 minutes after Purdue basketball games. I think I've made this open to the public. I think everybody can see this right now, which is a little bit scary for me as well as you. But if you're new to this, we do something called a rap video after Purdue basketball games where I basically sit here and talk about the game. Some of you seem to like it. You're very twisted individuals, those of you who do. But it's inspired many years ago by the guy I've dubbed as Read the Box Score guy. I was doing some reconnaissance on a Purdue basketball player in the NBA, and I was reading one of his local beat writers' work, and he was one of those old school sports writer guys who was probably slow to adjust to the changing times and changing technologies, and he was basically filming himself with his phone reading the box score. And I thought, I can do something even more mediocre than this. So ever since then, after Purdue basketball games, I've been churning out rap videos. So today is kind of our trial error. This is the unofficial, I guess, we'll call this the prequel to season 6, season 7, season 8, whatever this is of the rap video franchise. This is, I guess, the game zero, if you will, of Purdue's 2019 to 2020 season. 2019-2020, I don't know what the 2 in there is, an extra number or an extra word, depending on how you want to translate the 2. Anyway, Purdue had you will find, those of you who are new to the show, that I do tend to ramble. I do tend to say silly things that I come to regret immediately after they come out of my mouth. I'll do my best to control it, but there are no promises here, ever. Purdue had its Purdue. Obviously, Purdue had its Purdue. Purdue had its annual Fan Day scrimmage, is plural, today here in Mackey Arena. This is their event that sort of takes the place of Midnight Madness, as a lot of other places do. The way Matt Painter approaches things is that there's nothing to celebrate before the season, so they don't want to have a party, so to speak. But they still want to do right by their fans, so they do an opportunity here for everybody to come out and see the team, and it seems to go over pretty well. Had a couple of thousand people here, I think. I'm really bad at estimating numbers just by eyeballing it. Anywhere between 50 and 10,000 people were here today, based on my ability to eyeball crowds and accurately decipher their volume. Anyway, Purdue won today, by the way. Purdue was 3-0. Today. That is a tired joke that most of you who've been with us for the longest time probably saw coming, but I could not resist. So we've gotten you will also find nobody runs a joke into the ground like this guy right here. So wanted to talk about a couple of things about the scrimmages today. First off, we will have a more in-depth analysis. We'll have more curated content from today's happenings later on and throughout the week. I don't want to overwhelm our website on the same day as a football game, the conflict we run into every day or every year with this particular event. But I will get more stuff up on the website throughout the day today, but just wanted to run through a couple of things from an analytical perspective here that you'll read more about on the site later, but that won't be nearly as fun as actually hearing me say it and watching me say it. Thus the appeal of the rap video. Purdue doesn't have a lot of seniors. They've only got Evan Boudreaux, Jihad Proctor, and Tommy Luce. Only one of those players has been in the program more than a year. And, Tommy Luce is not going to be a rotation guy. So this is not an old team necessarily, but I think Purdue is going to have great leadership this year because I think that Nojel Eastern and Matt Harms are going to be two of the better leaders Matt Painter's ever had at Purdue. I think they're just built that way. They're looking forward to being empowered as the dominant voices in the room. That's not been the case the last 2 years necessarily. now it's their time, and I think both are looking forward to it. So the junior class essentially makes up for the lack of continuity building toward a strong senior class. But I think from a productivity perspective, I think, obviously your two juniors are two of your better players in Joe Eastern and Matt Harms, two of the better players in the Big Ten, I think. I put Matt Harms on my first team All Big Ten ballot. I'm fully expecting him to be that level of player this year. Joe Eastern made the All Big Ten team in the preseason, a reflection of the fact that people around the league appreciate all of the things he does that have helped Purdue win. A lot of stuff that can easily get glanced over by the many, many read the box score guys out there who just look at scoring and vote for things accordingly. But beyond the juniors and beyond the small but Purdue hopes impactful senior class in Evan Boudreaux and Jahad Proctor, two guys who can really, I think, help Purdue this year. This is really a year where Purdue needs its sophomores to be something more than just kind of second-year guys. Because when you look at the volume of them, the roster is tilted sort of in their direction from a numbers perspective. And, look, today was not Travion Williams' best day. He was 1 of 5 from the floor. When he goes up against Matt Harms, that's a difficult matchup for him, the length, the agility, whatever it may be. When he played with Matt Harms, whether it was related in the second scrimmage to those two guys playing together, causing problems or what, but their team got blitzed 19-4. They lost. So this was not Travion Williams' best day. You've seen what Travion Williams is capable of. I think Purdue still is expecting a step in the right direction from him to be something even more than he was during his freshman season at Purdue. I think a lot of intangibles kind of go into that, perhaps practice habits, perhaps conditioning, obviously, are things that are going to be important to him going from good to really, really, really good to potentially one day great. Not uncommon for players his age to, have to get some of those pieces to fall in place too, beyond the physical, beyond the talent. So Purdue's expecting big things from Travion Williams, clearly. But on this day, this was not his day. This was not his best day. But the rest of the sophomore class, I thought, was really good. And that was – you can't look at that as anything other than really encouraging. I know scrimmages are what they are. Intra-squad scrimmages are even something more than what they are because it warps reality from a lineups perspective. Guys play more, guys shoot more than they will ordinarily. Can only tell so much. But there are two guys on this team, to me, that I think have the sort of capacity in them to go from one level to another in terms of personal improvement. One of them is Travion Williams, and one of them is Aaron Wheeler. And if those two guys take significant jumps, I think those are the two guys who take this team from one level to the next if they do it. And I think what you saw today from Aaron Wheeler was very encouraging because, he was very, very good as a redshirt freshman a lot of the time. Made a lot of impactful plays for Purdue all season long, gave Purdue good minutes, won games for Purdue. Does Purdue beat Maryland in Mackey Arena without Aaron Wheeler busting out? Probably not. Does Purdue beat Michigan State in Mackey Arena without Aaron Wheeler making a bunch of big shots? Maybe, maybe not. Point is, Aaron Wheeler did a lot of really positive things right away as a redshirt freshman for Purdue last season. The Aaron Wheeler you saw Saturday, I thought looked like something more. Painter said he was injured in practice this week, missed some practice. You wouldn't have known it because I thought he played really, really well. He looks bigger and stronger in his upper body. Physically, he's coming along, but he looked tougher. He looked more aggressive. He looked more assertive. He opened the game with a really tough contested offensive rebound, a play that I'm not sure you would have seen him make last year. He had some moments of productivity on the boards. I don't know if it was necessarily him out-muscling people or out-hustling people. And yes, I know out-muscling and out-hustling rhymes. No, I did not plan that, but that was awesome. Anyway, he looked strong. He looked aggressive. He looked confident today in terms of going to the glass. There was a really physical, contested defensive rebound he got as well. I think that's a big part of his upside, too. Purdue needs him to be a better rebounder than probably he was last season because Purdue needs a lot of people to be good rebounders this year because Purdue obviously wants that to be a strength once again for them. It's not going to be all Matt Harms, no Joe Eastern, and Travion Williams on the glass, and Evan Boudreaux. Purdue wants to be a really good defensive rebounding team and offensive rebounding team. And, Aaron Wheeler has the ability, has the athleticism, has the height, has the length to do it perhaps a little bit differently, but do it nonetheless. And I thought Saturday you saw a player who really went to the glass hard, really fought people, looked stronger, looked more aggressive. See what I said about me repeating stuff? I'm repeating stuff again. Anyway, great day for Aaron Wheeler on the glass. Great day offensively for him, too. He made a lot of shots. He was 3 or 4 from three-point range, 6 of 9 overall. There was a bucket. We got video of it. We'll post it earlier this week too, where I think he broke somebody down off the dribble and made a runner or a pull-up jumper or something like that. Another bit of evidence of him maybe being a more complete player now than he was a year ago, and that's good news for Purdue because this is a guy obviously with a pretty significant ceiling, with his height, athleticism, length, all the rest, and skill set. And for him to round out his game, to show some development in some really important areas, I think really matters. Hey, there's 10 of you on here, and I didn't even tell anyone I was doing this because I wasn't sure I wanted people to watch it. Anyway, great. Welcome, 10 people. We aren't going to take questions on these things. This is simply about the rap video, just so you guys know going into the season. Maybe at some point in time we'll meld this into kind of a post-game call-in show kind of thing, but time will tell. I was talking about sophomores. Aaron Wheeler, obviously I've talked ad nauseum about him to this point. Eric Hunter, same deal. Looked like a very different player than he did a year ago. Looked aggressive, looked assertive, looked confident, looked more comfortable. Again, a scrimmage against his teammates, but just looked like a different player than he did a year ago. You know, I don't think he was necessarily confident last season. I think the jump in competition from a small school in Indianapolis and being off the circuit, as they say, in the grassroots scene. He did play on the Under Armour, but he did the Open Division. I won't waste your time with the explanation there, but I think the jump from competition from high school and grassroots for him to this level was pretty significant. I think it took him some time to get used to. I think also he was on a team that didn't need him to shoot, where he goes from being the number 1 option at all times to being the number 5 option at most times. It wasn't, his shooting percentages last year were what they were. They were atypical of his body of work prior to Purdue. But I don't think it was because he couldn't shoot, was bad at shooting last season. I think he just wasn't ready to shoot, wasn't looking to shoot. And that's pretty important. When you're catching the ball and you're not looking at the basket, or you're not catching the ball in order to shoot it, or at least give the defense the reason to think you're going to shoot it so you can do something else, you're not necessarily going to shoot very well. I think it stands to reason to say. And I think that's part of his deal. I think now he's one of many guys on this team who Purdue needs more from and is going to carry himself accordingly, like he's ready to do it. I think he's going to look to score more. He's going to be more aggressive. He's going to be more assertive. He's going to be more confident. And I think what you saw him do last season defensively was a really, really pleasant surprise for Purdue, because he was not supposed to be a strong defender when he got here. That was going to be his area where he had to make the most gains. By the end of the year, he was pretty solid. He guarded the best guy on Old Dominion when he got thrown into the starting lineup 5 seconds, I should say, before tip-off, did a good job. I think the Maryland game here was kind of his come-to-Jesus moment, as they say, in terms of what he has to do to play at this level, and that was defensively, because Anthony Cowan was killing him as soon as he came in the game. That ended up being a very positive thing in the long run, because by the end of the year, Eric Hunter was a very different defender than he was at the start of the year, and now looks like a guy who's got a chance to be a pretty decent college defender, which is another case in Purdue basketball here, where a guy who comes in you don't expect to be a good defender could end up leaving a pretty good one. Rafael Davis, who was here today, being one example, Dakota Mathias being another. Perhaps Eric Hunter's that next guy. But he was really good today, too. I think he had 13 points, 5 assists. I thought he made some good passes, made some good decisions, was really aggressive, and just good and solid. And that's a pretty good combination for where he is at this point in his career. With the sophomores, Aaron Wheeler, Eric Hunter, Sasha Stefanovic. If you read my story a couple weeks ago about, he's kind of, if anybody separated himself a little bit at the 2 and at the 3, those wing positions, starting to lose my voice. It might have been Stefanovic, because I know his experience has stuck out all summer. for Purdue, being one of the guys who knows what he's doing around a bunch of guys who are new to the program, and Proctor and all the freshmen. But also he's shot the ball really, really well. And here's another example of a guy who, as he put it, a lot of guys last year were there to take shots. A lot of guys in Ryan Klein and Carson Edwards, the offense was built around. When they're getting the ball, they're shooting the ball, and everybody else is out there to get them the ball so they can shoot the ball. Sasha Stefanovic goes from a situation where he comes in the game and Painter's message is maybe get up and down the floor a couple times, and if a shot comes your way and you're wide open, take it. Now it's if a shot comes your way, take it. And I think another case of a guy who's comfortable now, he's confident now, and you're going to see a very different player this year. This is a player, too, by the way, who very quietly, and I say that because I think a lot of people would be surprised if they didn't follow the numbers all year long, but very quietly shot better than 40% for the season from three-point range, obviously on lower volume than he'll carry this season. But actually, I think he shot better in Big Ten play even than he did for the season overall. I might have that flipped, which wouldn't be uncommon. But a guy who did some very positive things as a freshman, found some ways, even though defense is naturally where his limitations lie, did some positive things defensively, found ways to contribute, took a bunch of charges. Just a guy who found a lot of little things to do. And there's a void for little things on this team right now, largely because Grady Eifert's gone, but largely because that's a deal for every team every year. Who's going to do those little things that teams need to become big things? And, this team is wired to do that. I think Nojel Eastern is kind of that guy. I think Sasha Stefanovic can be one of those guys. A lot of people can be that kind of guy, but I also think that there's a role there too for Evan Boudreau. People look at where he was at the end of last season when he was the third center basically on a team playing two centers, and probably wrote him off coming into the season. That's, probably wasn't unreasonable because you wondered where the minutes were going to come from. But he is now almost exclusively a power forward, as they say. And there are minutes there to be had. Aaron Wheeler has to be considered probably the presumed starter. But there are minutes there to be had. And it looks, based on what I've seen in practice, based on what I saw today, based on everything I've been told, Evan Boudreau has put himself in a really good position to really help this team this year. I think he's maybe a little bit more comfortable at the four. I don't know if his matchups offensively are quite as good as they would be at the five in terms of his ability to take fives away from the basket, depending on the matchup, like everything else. But I do think he can give Purdue a rebounding presence at the four. I do think, defensively around the basket, his lack of center size, showed up at times last year. I think he goes from being a small center to a big power forward. How Purdue uses that element, I don't know, but Boudreau certainly shoots the ball well enough to be that floor stretching element that is so important nowadays in college basketball. And Purdue has at least three forwards on this team, and Aaron Wheeler, Evan Boudreau, and Mason Gillis, who can all shoot the three. And it's really important you have that, as Grady Eifert showed, as Vincent Edwards showed, as Robbie Hummel showed on down the line for Purdue. I think Boudreau can really shoot it, but also I think he can be kind of that garbage man too, in terms of a guy who's going to fight like hell for offensive rebounds, fight like hell for defensive rebounds, throw his body around, get on the floor for loose balls, things like that. I don't know if you saw that as much last season before he got hurt, and he was hurt, by the way. I'm doing a story on him for this week, and I just talked to him yesterday, and that injury he had required a procedure in April. PRP shot, I believe he said. And you can look that up on WebMD or something like that. But he was limited by injury, too, beyond just the depth chart situation. So a lot went into where he was at the end of the year last year, I think. But, the Evan Boudreau I saw in AAU many years ago was a mud wrestler. He was a mud wrestler. He was, Brian Cardinal, pads on his knees, pads on his elbows, on the floor more than he's upright, kind of thing. A mud wrestler is what I'm saying. He's always been kind of a high effort, hustle sort of guy. And now maybe in his old age as a senior, as a guy who obviously wants to get out there. This is what he came to Purdue to do, is to contribute and play and help them win. I could see maybe him carrying some of that, energy off the bench, hustle, effort off the bench type of stuff. Normally we don't go more than 20 minutes with these things. But since we're live, I don't care. I'm just going to keep talking. You know what I'm going to do after this? I'm going to play Minecraft for 9 hours straight. I'm going to get as many people to click on this as possible to watch me play Minecraft like the kids do. Anyway, a couple other just notables real quick. I'm going to just wrap this up. I know I say that a lot, but I never do. Offensive rebounding looked like a pretty significant positive today for Purdue. They made a lot of plays on the offensive glass. Painter afterwards said that was as much deficient defensive rebounding. That's kind of hard to say, as it was good offensive rebounding. And I could see that being, the case to a certain extent, but I also thought some of the offensive rebounds were really impressive individual plays. I thought Aaron Wheeler made one. I thought Boudreaux made one to tip a ball away from Travion Williams to himself. So I will, instead of it being a 50-50 split, I will tilt it 60% good offensive rebounding, 40% maybe bad blockouts, whatever else, because I thought the effort looked really good on the offensive rebounds. Mason Gillis had one as well. But if Purdue can maintain that as a strength, that was a way bigger deal for last year's Purdue team, than people give it credit for. I don't remember anybody walking away from last season saying, man, that was the most fun offensive rebounding team I've ever watched play. People saw the threes. People saw, Carson Edwards' electric play, Ryan Klein's, atomic shooting at times, and just the overall energy that team played with. A lot of little things Grady Eifert did, lots of threes, lots of fun, lots of excitement. They didn't talk about offensive rebounding. Offensive rebounding was a huge deal for Purdue, because what Purdue did last year was they put Carson Edwards and Ryan Klein out there with a perfect balance of efficiency around them. They maximized possessions. They made the most of their possessions that didn't involve those two guys, and that allowed those two guys to burn through possessions like hot butter. And that's what they did best. And when those guys got it going from three, when those guys made plays, Purdue was awesome. And you saw that in the NCAA tournament. But the balance around them was really, really something unlike anything I've ever seen in terms of a winning infrastructure being put in place around a couple of stars. One star and one really, really good college offensive player in Ryan Klein. Offensive rebounds were a huge part of that. If they can do that again this year, this is a very different team. There's no Carson Edwards. There's no singular scorer. There's no maybe singular scoring element. Purdue's going to play through its big guys, but this isn't a get the guards as many threes as possible type of team. But offensive rebounding always helps you. There's no downside to offensive rebounding. It's all positive. It's all found money. Whenever you can do it, I highly recommend it if you have a basketball team. What else was I going to talk about? I don't know. Oh, shooting, obviously. Purdue has relied as much on the three-pointer as probably any team in college basketball the last couple of years. Now, I know some of you Ken Pom nerds out there are going to say, oh, no, they've only shot so many threes, but this mid-major out in California shot 10 times more. Well, I don't mean it that way. I don't mean the hard numbers, nerds. I mean relying on it in terms of complementing. Well, last year they relied on it as much as anybody else. That's all they want to do is shoot threes. But they've also built offenses around it. When Purdue had its ultimate size a couple of years ago, the three-pointer was as big a deal as the actual ultimate size itself, because that balance Purdue struck was impossible to deal with for a lot of people. Last year, the entire game plan was threes, nothing but. But also they played off of that with what they got Matt Harms offensively in the screen and roll slips. A lot of other stuff. The indirect man threes, Aaron Wheeler and Grady Eifert got fat on all season long. Purdue had wide open threes for those guys seemingly whenever they wanted them because of the threat that Edwards and Ryan Klein posed coming off screens as shooters all year long. So Purdue has relied as much on the three-pointer as any team in college basketball, in my opinion, in a tangible and intangible sense. Now, I think they want to do the same thing. They want to play through Harms and Travion Williams, but they want to allow those guys to try to strike that balance again where the three-pointer is kind of an even partner with the interior. And however the interior guys are going to be used, they're going to be used all over the floor. But Purdue loves its shooters. It really likes its core of shooters. These guys are unproven. However, Sasha Stefanovic has done some positive things as a shooter in his career thus far. He's never carried the volume he's going to carry now. Brandon Newman has never shot a college basketball three-pointer. Isaiah Thompson has never shot a college basketball three-pointer. Jahad Proctor has never shot a three-pointer at the high major level. Evan Boudreau obviously has done some positive things. He will do them in a different role this year. Mason Gillis has never shot a college three-pointer. Who am I forgetting? Eric Hunter, obviously a guy who shot like 20% last year. A lot to prove, but Purdue really likes these guys. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody really important. Obviously Aaron Wheeler, a really good three-point shooter last year. Role changes this year, very different offense. Point is, the whole is very unproven in terms of that being a part of the game Purdue can rely on, can build around, whatever else. But they certainly have the pieces in place, it seems like. Today was a good start. It's a scrimmage, only a scrimmage. You're playing in front of your home fans against your own teammates. But for them to shoot 50% as a team, 18 of 36, that being said, I've seen really good Purdue shooting teams shoot like hell in this thing and then have great years. So this is fool's gold if there ever was one potentially. But like offensive rebounding, if you can do it, if you can make a shot instead of missing a shot, I highly recommend that as well if you have a basketball team. So 18 of 36, pretty good deal. I do think Matt Harms is going to make more threes this year. I think it's going to be a big part of what he does. Looked really good shooting the ball today, made one, had a second one, rim out on him. But the second one was really notable because he shot it as the trailer coming down in transition, where that shot's going to be there almost whenever you want it. That is the shot that Robbie Hummel got fat on. I keep using that same term. Trailing the play, you're open because everybody else is sunk toward the rim to protect the rim. You get that quick hitter up at the top of the arc. You can stroke that in rhythm. That's a really, really hard shot to defend. Matt Harms looked perfectly natural, perfectly comfortable shooting that shot, rimmed out on him. If he can make that shot and people are going to have to come out and guard him at the top of the arc, there's just no telling what that does in terms of opening the floor for Purdue. I think that's going to be a really big part of what Purdue does offensively this season, too, using him in a variety of ways. See you, Dustin. If any of your names are Dustin, then goodbye to you as well. Anyway, I think Matt Harms is going to be a significant weapon for Purdue this year. Pick and pop, pick and roll, just shooting those threes I talked about earlier. I think he's going to get more low post touches than ever before, and he's going to be really effective doing it. He's better at that than I think people give him credit for. People see his body type and they don't think of him as a low post player, but I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to draw a lot of fouls. I don't know if he's going to be Isaac Haas level of a foul drawer or a Caleb Swanigan level of a foul drawer, but I think he will draw quite a bit of fouls. Those things add up. The power of the common foul in college basketball is significant. How many free throws did Purdue shoot when Isaac Haas was on this team for no reason other than Isaac Haas picked up 5-6 early fouls on the opposition, and then a touch foul got you to the line. I am really rambling at this point. But I think that pretty much sums up a lot of what I wanted to talk about following this Fan Day scrimmage. I know a lot of your minds are on football right now, deservedly so. Football is obviously a big deal on Saturday afternoons. But we are going to have a lot more on the site from this Purdue Fan Day, these Purdue Fan Day scrimmages. We are going to have a lot of Purdue basketball stuff on the site this week and next. This week leading into the Providence scrimmage next week. That's what I got. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Those 18 of you who didn't even know this was coming but are watching nonetheless, really appreciate it. We will post this replay on our site for all the rest of you. So for Brian Newbert from goldenblack.com, thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And we'll talk to you again from whenever. I have no idea. We'll do a Sunday night Purdue chat session tomorrow night as well. So probably then, if there's any crossover in audiences there. I'm clearly in mid-season form here on the rap video. Don't even know my tagline. So Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Stay tuned to the site for much more from today. Take care.